Hello everyone, Victor Tanzik here, and welcome to the Reddit Railway. Today's destination is r/EntitledParents, so all aboard! Me and my dog were in the backyard because the inside of my house was being painted. While we were outside, I found myself needing to use the bathroom. Since I couldn't access mine, I decided to do my business in the yard, which was secluded and only visible from above. While I was relieving myself, I heard a very high-pitched whine. When I looked up, I saw a drone hovering above, presumably watching me. I don't really have a shy bladder, so I finished what I was doing, put myself away, and went back to wasting time. Later that day, I was able to get back inside my house. Just after dinner, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a very uncomfortable-looking police officer. He asked me if I had urinated in my yard recently. I just looked at him with a raised eyebrow. He said that someone had made a complaint about what I had done and that it had to be investigated because I lived close to a school. I confirmed that I had and showed the officer the exact spot. I then told him the only people that would have seen me were my dog and whoever was flying that drone. The officer thanked me and left, assuring me that I wasn't in trouble. The next day, my dog was frolicking in the yard while I was working. I had the door open to keep an eye on him. Suddenly, he started barking madly as the drone reappears. It's hovering directly over my dog, clearly tormenting him. I grab my hose, set the nozzle to high pressure, and zap the thing. The drone immediately falls to the ground and my dog chews on it a bit. Apart from some teeth marks, it seemed fine, though I would discover the water had effectively killed it. I took my dog and the drone inside. I figured the owner would come by soon, and they did. An hour later, my doorbell rings and there's a 12 or 13-year-old kid on my steps. He demands I return his drone. I ask him why should I, when he's been using it to harass me. He starts foot stomping and throwing a shrieking tantrum that would make a 7-year-old jealous. He even said something like, "Give it back now and that's final," which I found kinda adorable. I started laughing and told him to come back with a parent before shutting the door in his face. Around 6 that evening, there was another knock at the door. The kid's back with his father. I get the feeling he knew whatever story his son had told him was bull because he sheepishly asked if I had stolen his drone. I told him what actually happened and he was furious, not with me but with the kid. He turns to his son and demands to know the truth. His son starts bawling because he knew he'd been caught. The dad then told him, "When I bought you that drone, I said there was one rule. You don't bother anyone with it." The dad apologizes on his son's behalf and says I can keep the drone. The kid doesn't like this and says, "I'm telling Mum." There's a bit of a scuffle between them while the dad wrangles the kid into his car. The dad then comes back to give me his phone number with instructions to text him if his ex-wife should pay me a visit. I said I would and waved goodbye. A few days later around lunchtime, someone started pounding on my door. On my approach to answer it, I heard high-pitched shrieking. I had a feeling I knew who it was, so I sent the dad a text saying, "I think she's here." Then I opened my door and was greeted to the sight of an extremely irate Karen. Before I can say anything, she starts screaming. She calls me the worst person in the world for stealing from her precious boy. Since I can't get a word in, I send another text to the dad. "I can see why you got a divorce." Right when I hit send, this woman slaps the phone out of my hand, demanding I look at her while she's talking to me. I counter by saying, "You're talking at me, not to me. This isn't a conversation." She lets out a squawk and starts to puff up like a blowfish. Before she can start up again, I hold up a finger, grab my phone and called the police non-emergency line. She demands to know who I'm calling and I told her. Her response was, and this is a direct quote, "Fucking good. Let's see how the pigs deal with a mosquito-dicked weasel like you who steals from children." The operator actually heard that and said, "I think I understand the nature of your call. Can you give me the address where this is happening?" I did. The operator thanked me and said officers were on the way. While I was talking to the operator, I got a reply from the dad. "Oh God, tell me she's not drunk." I'm pretty sure she was, as her breath reeked of wine. I replied to the dad with a thumbs down emoji. Karen continued to yell at me, so I got settled in and waited for the cops to arrive. It wasn't long before they did. When they pulled up, I noticed Karen had missed my driveway and knocked over my mailbox. The police separate us. As luck would have it, one of them was the same officer I'd spoken to the other day. I tell him my side of the story before he goes to confer with his partner. They both have a word with Karen, which is difficult because she is pissed off. She winds up slapping one of the cops and trying to bite the other one before she's restrained and bundled into the back of the cruiser. This was when the dad pulled up, completely aghast. He confirms my side of the story. The officers thank me and the dad for our time and promise a tow truck is coming for the woman's vehicle. The dad then leaves. While the officers were filling out forms, I zipped into my house and grabbed the drone. Making sure Karen was watching, I sauntered over to my trash cans and threw it away before dusting off my hands. Oh man, that was petty and I love it. Yeah, I can see why the dad divorced this ratbag. Fuck you, Karen. She sounds like a rotten person and it's clear who the son takes after. What a thoughtless brat. Using a drone to spy on people and terrorize dogs? He deserved to lose it, and the mum deserved to get carted off. However, that wasn't the end of it, so let's jump into the update to see what happened. Earlier today, my dog and I drove to a park. We play, I have lunch, he enjoys himself, it's all good. As we're leaving, I noticed this really large SUV with tinted windows sitting idle in the parking lot. I don't think much of it. On the way back to my house, I realized that SUV is uncomfortably close behind me. After a while, I was stopped at a red light at the bottom of a steep hill. That SUV is still right behind me. Something didn't feel right, so I decided to see if the driver was really following me. I drive a manual. I put my car into gear and roll back slightly, giving the SUV's bumper a tiny tap. I want to stress it was a tap, not a collision in any way, and certainly not an accident worthy of police attention. My plan was to compel the other driver to pull over with me so we could assess the damage. This works. Kinda. The SUV follows me into a shoulder off the side of the road, only the driver doesn't get out. In fact, the vehicle is eerily silent. The tinted windows and the height of the SUV meant I couldn't see the driver. While debating if I should just leave, 2 police cruisers arrive with sirens blaring. The officers spill out with their weapons drawn. I freeze, terrified and confused as to what's going on. And would you believe one of the policemen was the same officer as before? We recognize each other. He says some cops speak and the others holster their weapons. When everything's a little calmer, I ask what's going on. The officer says they got a 911 call about me road raging and fleeing the scene of an accident. I told him what happened, but I implied the SUV had tapped me because they were following so close. The cop and another officer proceed over to the SUV, whose driver finally rolls down the window. When they did, I kid you not, the cop literally facepalmed. Yep, it was Karen, who was apparently out on bail. She started screeching about how I rammed her car in reverse and then tried to escape. I'm pretty sure she was drunk again. The officer regains his composure and asks Karen to step out of her vehicle. She says no. Things devolve rapidly from there and she was arrested again. After she went to jail and following a brief investigation, I found out she had actually hired a private detective to follow me around for 2 days. Once she knew my daily habits, she took it upon herself to actually follow me anytime I went out. Why did she do this? To gather evidence that would discredit me as a witness in her upcoming custody case. Suffice to say, Karen had been a very naughty girl and broke every condition of her bail. All charges against her were later dropped after she was involuntarily committed to a state mental facility. I can't share much more than that for fear of doxing. I can say she's not allowed to be in the same room as her kid out of safety concerns. Regarding the kid, the dad got permanent custody until Karen is deemed fit enough to re-enter society. Hopefully she'll get better and leave me the hell alone. I don't know. Can any amount of therapy help a Karen? I guess we'll have to wait and see. At least for now she's locked away and can't hurt anyone, including her kid. Hopefully he'll turn out alright with the dad, as long as he doesn't get his hands on another drone. And OP might want to consider making that cop their best friend. It could come in handy. And with that, I'll end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.